life and how we go about them is unique and is right according to that person's position and where they are. And I think with this kind of understanding and with this kind of awareness, our relationships will be so much better. But unfortunately, we don't live in an idealized world, and we don't live in a kind of a very an accepting world. And our relationships, aren't they? It was a bit like chocolate in hot weather, soon goes into meltdown, and things become very messy and not so pleasant to handle. And I think relationships, at this time, my take on relationships at this time, I think it's a bit like living in a house where everything is falling down around you. Wherever you look, things seem to be going wrong. But we're so used to it, isn't it? It seems to be the norm. It's what happens, isn't it? It seems to be what happens. We moan and we groan and we blame, but we just carry on. Many just ignore the situation, ignore the chaos, and we patch and we fix things up temporarily. But eventually, I think what happens is that everything collapses, and then we pack up and run away, and hopefully we start again somewhere else. A kind of a scenario of our time at this particular time, isn't it? Doesn't seem to be anything of permanence or any kind of ability to resolve things. And so what I'd like to look at this evening is maybe three main relationships, what I would see as our three main relationships. And I think they're all related as well. I think the three relationships I really like to look at, I think we need to work on them, we need to heal with them and help us to move into a more positive space. So I'm going to do, if I can share my screen, you'd bear with me if we don't go into kind of a meltdown. If I can do this and this, yes, we're away. And I'd like to look at our three main relationships. And I think these are, maybe we haven't got time to explore, but I think really these are eternal relationships, constantly with us. And you'd be surprised, I think, even God, I think, is an eternal relationships. But our first relationships is with ourselves. We often tend, I think, not to really like ourselves too much. I don't know if you'd agree with that. We feel we don't meet or experience the idealized self that our parents, education, and society project as what we should be like. And so there's always I feel a nagging discontent within ourselves. Our second relationship that I think we need to look at and focus on is with others, of course. And these are the ones we kind of like, we often tend to blame, isn't it? We often we feel they don't give us what we want. They don't cooperate. They don't support our plans and needs. It's always their fault, isn't it? And that kind of often relationships are a bit like a simmering volcano, waiting to blow at any particular time. And our third relationship is with God. And I think everybody actually, maybe at this particular time, is not so strong. I think we all have, or we've had a relationship on some level or not with God. Maybe at this particular moment we're estranged, or we're divorced, or we're separated, or in kind of dispute. Or and occasionally we chat and say, "Oh, do you remember me? Maybe you can help me a little bit." But in a way, in the essence of it is, I think there's a general feeling about God, isn't it, that at this particular moment, that he's supposed to be very powerful. He's one that can make everything work. And so we pray, we call out, yet nothing seems to change. And we're not too happy with him. So it's interesting to not sort of look at what's led to this particular state. Why has this occurred? I mean, this is the kind of the kind of conundrum. This is what spirituality kind of we bring up this scenario, don't we? We say, well, this is the state of affairs, but how can we free ourselves? And psychology and all the different forms of therapy are desperately aware of influences and aware of all these effects, but I feel they're still using the things of the prison to try and resolve the things of the prison. And what's happening is that in our little prison, we're being crippled, restricted, blocking our energy, positivity, are completely sabotaged in that way. And then we can begin to see, can't we, the cause and failure and breakdown of our relationships. The cause is within ourselves, within our prison here. But because of our awareness is external, because we've externalized our consciousness, we feel things are caused by others. We feel they're caused by society. But in fact, it's quite interesting that the issues of our prison are being created by ourselves, by our own choices. We are our own jailer. So in fact, what's happened is we've imprisoned ourselves. You've trapped yourself. So maybe if this is the case, if we've imprisoned our case, we can then free ourselves. And I think this is the message of spirituality, is that we have within us, within our awareness, within our capabilities, the awareness, the methodology, the ability to break free of this. And what we can do is we can take 3 steps. And as you can see here, there's 3 steps that we can do to free our mind, to free our consciousness. And the first one is visualization. The second is connection. And the third is release. And so maybe we could do this together to kind of like see what really I'm kind of like part of my theory is saying, is that first of all, visualize a starlight energy in front of your mind, a beautiful energy, a beautiful pulsing, vibrant light. Connect with this light, just connect with it, with your mind, and then integrate, fill yourself with its light and its power. And then release it. It's there, but release it. Kind of visualize it mentally, kind of allow it to kind of feel it, kind of breaking out inside your being. Allow its light to spread throughout your being, throughout your mind, just pulsing, filling yourself with this incredible, energetic, lucent, powerful light energy. And so what's happening is there occurs an explosion of pure white light. And this is the light of pure spiritual energy, pure consciousness, spreading through our being. And this release of spiritual power, what happens is it breaks down the walls of our prison, dispersing our fears, worries, anxieties, freeing us from the effects of the past. All these things are related to our past. And what we're doing is we're positioning ourselves in the present. This is what spirituality does. It enables us to ground ourselves, position ourselves in a center of light, in a center of self-awareness, where the things of the past don't exist. The things of the future are ahead of us. But where we are now, we're centered, grounded in spiritual self-awareness. And so we move away from the illusions of all the influences and we connect with this true innate spiritual nature. But the question is, of course, okay, that's kind of, it's a momentary experience. And what we need to do is we need to hold this particular state. We need to embed it in our experience. Fears, our anxieties, our pain, everything that we kind of have experienced or we're holding on to is held in our subconscious nature. And what we're doing is we're introducing another kind of program, a program of positivity. And we're saying to our subconscious, look, this is what I am now. I'm not this anger. I'm not this fear. I'm not all these other stuff. No. What I'm doing is I'm light. And I'm going to experience this light. I now become this light. And what happens is the jailer of the mind, the ego, says, oh, okay, this doesn't seem to be too bad. I kind of like, we allay its fears, and it enables it to be accepted. It doesn't see it as a threat. So let's just affirm this through spiritual awareness. This is meditation. Meditation is where we reprogram our awareness. We reprogram our consciousness, and we change the patterning. We're changing the formation that has been embedded over a period of time through wrong awareness, through wrong thinking, through wrong philosophy, and so on. And so what we're doing now is we're just taking our life, taking our awareness into our own hands. So, I am this light. I experience this light, and I become this light. And you hold it. We experience it, so we acknowledge it, we experience it, we become it. I am this light. I experience this light. I become this light. And so what we're doing is that we're releasing our dormant creative consciousness, this inner state of love, light energy. And it brings immediate change of power and awareness. Immediately there is a kind of reassertion and a reconnection with our own reality and with our own truth, because it is part of our truth. The other is a kind of a superficial philosophy or a superficial effects that's been imposed, which we allowed ourselves to be kind of transposed. And so it has no power, it has no roots, it has no hold. Its only hold is through illusion, that we believe we need these things. And so we kind of convince ourselves, because materialism, consumerism is saying, you need this, you've got to have this. If you don't have this, you're going to be in trouble. If you don't wear these shoes, if you don't have this big car, if you don't, you're going to be. And so there's a fear, isn't there? That, I better do this, I should follow that. I'm going to be in big trouble. I'll be at. It's like all the vaccinations. You've got to have this. If you don't, this is going to happen to you. And so what we're doing in spirituality is saying, no, we're connecting with our power center. So what's happening? So what's occurring? What's occurring? Meditation, spirituality helps us change. We're changing the way we see and perceive. Like this saying from Proust. He says, the real voyage of discovery lies in seeking new landscapes, seeing with new eyes. It's like we're seeing now ourselves, our world, and others with a different kind of clarity now. Things now are different. We had this veil of pain that we looked through, this veil of kind of false philosophy that was implanted in different ways. And we kind of like saw things and perceived things through that. But what happens now, of course, we now open our third eye. This is the eye of awareness. It's the eye of wisdom, enabling us to see depth, meaning, what is real and true, enabling us to become free and freeing ourselves from the initial superficial judgments and limited awareness. Now our spiritual mind helps us to see the bigger picture. We can see things now on a bigger scale of things. And we can see the connectedness of all things. And of course, we begin to see ourselves and others in a different light, in a more compassionate light, a more understanding light. It's just that, we see it. It's obvious. It's like when you see, you look at a tree and you see it's a tree. You don't need to kind of intellectualize it. We see a car, it's a car. So in the same way, when we see ourselves and others, we know. You know who they are. We know who ourselves are. Because the third eye is the eye of clarity.